The reason your favorite artists draw so well, consistently, is because of their process. You might have talent and inspiration, but how do you actually consistently win? It's one of the simplest concepts and yet hardest to learn. I've been drawing for over 2 decades and I used to struggle with this so much. You probably heard it 1,000 times. Start loose, draw the shapes first, and it's not wrong. But what's the actual framework and why do we do it like that? Maybe you watch a pro starting loose, drawing fast, confident lines, and it all clicks, right? It feels like magic. But it's actually a structured intuition built over the years. And that's something you can learn without needing 10 years of guesswork. This is the 3-step framework I use to draw anything. And pretty much every top level artist uses some version of this process. I call this vibe, design, polish. You start by capturing the energy, drawing the gesture with nice, flowing rhythm lines, and then you build on top of that gesture with shapes, forms, and volumes and establish the structure. And finally, you refine and polish it with clarity and finesse. It's just like cooking. Prep, cook, serve. And if you master this, you'll be able to draw anything in any style you want and anytime you want. And the best part, you won't be replaced by AI. Because this is an authentic process. I'm gonna break it all down and give you practical steps to follow. First step is the vibe. But it's not really what you think. It's not even about drawing. Most people think perfect art is all about flawless anatomy, perfect technique, clean rendering and all that. But that's like saying communication is just using the right words. Because drawing is communication. And I'm sure you've heard the classic breakdown about the communication. It's 7% words, 38% tone, and 55% body language. And same goes with drawing. It's 20% technique, but 80% vibe. And this is the most important step because this is the body language and tone of the drawing. It speaks before the viewer even registers the details. It's what makes your sketch feel alive even when it's just a sketch. So this is where you go wild and expressive and carefree, just focus on the energy and capture the vibe. And this is not about accuracy, right? You are not trying to get it right, you are trying to feel it right. So you go all in with good energy and you just keep it loose and just flow. So practical approach in this step is you focus on the energy, right? Don't even think about I'm drawing a human or an animal. Just focus on the soul of the subject and draw the gesture with nice flowing rhythm lines. And draw with instinct. Draw loud, be expressive, and exaggerate as much as you can. And most importantly, give yourself full permission to make mistakes. And yeah, it might look ugly at first, but that chaos, that's your secret weapon. Now you need to ground that chaos without killing it. And that's exactly what step 2 is for, which is design. And design isn't decoration, it's intentional decision after decision. It's the bridge between your intuition and the page. If vibe stage was you feeling it, this stage is how you think it into existence. It's when your raw emotion translated into a clear statement. It's like intuition meets intelligence. So this is where you use visual logic, balance, proportions, shape language, design principles like proximity, hierarchy, continuity, all this stuff. And these aren't just rules, they are the grammar of visual storytelling. They are the psychology of how we see. So the practical approach in this step is you focus on the structure and start with the shapes and then go on to the forms and establish the volumes. And ideally start from the big shapes and then go on to the medium and small shapes because that's how our brains work. Whenever we look at something, we perceive the biggest shape first and use all the design principles you can in the service of initial intention, which is you telling a story or expressing an idea or an emotion. And remember, this is not about adding detail. This is more like adding meaning with design decisions. It's still expressive, but now it's more grounded and feels more real. And here's the paradox. You heard me saying it's 80% vibe, 20% technique. This doesn't mean that 20% is not important. That 20% is what unlocks the 80. First 2 stages, vibe and design, are mostly intuitive. But you build that intuition at this stage with deliberate and disciplined practice. Think of it like this. In step 1, you show the spirit. You breathe life into it. It's the raw life energy. It's the rhythm, that spark that makes it alive. Step 2, you show your personality. You shape with your unique taste. This is your style, your unique way of looking at the world and perceiving the world, turned into design by your design choices. And step 3 shows your character. This is your discipline and your devotion and your commitment to follow through with excellent execution, your craftsmanship, all that stuff. And yeah, it's slow and it's hard, but that's why it matters. This stage, polish stage, is where you train your intuition. It's where you gain control. And it's where you commit. Line work, shading, painting, whatever finish you choose. You are finishing what you cooked and presenting it to the world. And again, you are not cleaning it, you are revealing your vision you had in the first place. So the practical approach in this step is pretty straightforward. Focus on representation and craftsmanship, and slow down and zoom in and deal with small chunks at a time so you can stay in the flow. And again, put some banger music, enjoy that process, right? Make it a ritual and find peace in that slow, disciplined practice, right? Disciplined process. And the most critical thing here is don't get caught in overthinking, right? Because this stage is relatively longer than the other stages and it's slow, so it's much easier to get caught in overthinking. Trust the previous steps and trust your intuition. Even if you are a beginner, just go with it. But here's the best part. You don't have to master all these steps at once. You can split and practice and study them separately. And as you get better, all these steps kind of blend into each other. You'll find yourself using shapes in the first stage and lines in the second stage. Or sometimes you can mix steps or add more steps or skip steps. You can even hyper optimize for specific concepts you want to practice. And that's the beauty of mastery. It becomes second nature and fluid, and you can do it in more subtle ways. But this gives you a solid foundation, a mental model that you can always return to. And if you are really serious about leveling up your art, join my figure course and we'll get you started. We go deep on these concepts. So let's recap what we talked about. First, capture the vibe, draw the gesture with rhythm lines, and then build on top of the gesture with shapes, forms, and volumes, and establish the structure using intentional visual logic and design principles. And finally, bring it to life with mastery and discipline. Altogether, that's not just a drawing. That's basically you on the page, especially if you nail down the first stage. So draw like you cook. Prep, cook, serve. Alright, so that's all I got for this one. Thanks for watching and I'll see you real soon. Peace.